True attraction begins within, not through external effort. Most people spend their lives trying to decorate the surface, polishing appearances, changing their tone, adjusting their words, all to be liked, admired, or wanted by others. But this kind of attraction is temporary, fragile, and exhausting. You may hold someone's attention for a while, but if your energy is built on insecurity, it will always fade, because what is built on illusion cannot last. Real attraction does not come from pretending. It comes from being. It flows naturally when you stop trying to convince the world of your worth and begin to feel it from the inside out. When you are grounded in yourself, when you understand your value without needing anyone to confirm it, your energy changes. It becomes still, calm, and magnetic. People can sense it before you speak a single word. You no longer carry the vibration of desperation, and that absence of need draws others in. The human heart is sensitive to authenticity. We are wired to be drawn toward people who feel complete, because they radiate something we crave, a sense of peace. That peace cannot be faked, because it is not a mask you wear. It is a state of being you cultivate through self-awareness. To truly attract, you must stop performing. The moment you try to become what you think others want, you lose the natural rhythm of your own essence. You begin to move unnaturally, speak unnaturally, live unnaturally, all in the name of acceptance. But acceptance that must be earned is never real acceptance. It is a trade of truth for approval, and it will never satisfy your soul. Instead, when you allow yourself to simply exist as you are, without the pressure to impress or prove, something beautiful happens. Your natural frequency begins to speak louder than any words could. Attraction, in its purest form, is the meeting of aligned energies. It is not about manipulation. It is resonance. You attract what mirrors the energy you hold within. If you live in fear of being alone, you will attract those who confirm that fear. If you live in the fullness of your own being, you will draw those who meet you in that same wholeness. That is why inner peace and self-acceptance are the most powerful forces of attraction. They are invisible, yet undeniable. People feel safe around someone who is not reaching outward for completion. They feel seen, not because you are trying to see them, but because your stillness gives them permission to be real too. Think of the ocean, vast, deep, unbothered by the passing waves. It does not chase the rivers. they flow toward it naturally. That is how your energy works when you are aligned with your truth. You do not chase attention. Attention gravitates toward you. You do not seek validation. Validation becomes unnecessary. The ones meant to connect with your energy will find you, because your presence speaks a language their soul understands. When you live from that space, your relationships begin to change. You no longer cling to people who cannot meet you. You no longer try to force connections or impress those who overlook you. Instead, you simply exist as a mirror of authenticity, and the world adjusts accordingly. Those who are drawn to you will feel something deeper than attraction. They will feel recognition. And those who are not will quietly fade away, making room for what truly belongs. So the first step toward attracting anyone is not to focus on them, but to return to you, to find peace in your own being and allow that peace to become your magnet. You do not have to shout to be seen. You do not have to chase to be loved. The quiet confidence of self, acceptance, is far more powerful than any words or gestures could ever be. When you become the source of your own light, others cannot help but be drawn to its warmth. The 4 words, "I am enough now," hold a kind of magic that isn't made of fantasy, but of truth. When you say them, you are not casting a spell on the world, you are dissolving the spell the world has cast on you. From childhood, most people are taught that worth must be earned through success, appearance, validation, or approval. Every compliment becomes a hit of belonging. Every rejection a wound that echoes for years. But somewhere beneath all that noise, your essence has always known one thing. You were already enough before you tried to become anything more. Those 4 words are a reminder, not a lesson. They bring you back to that inner knowing that was buried beneath layers of doubt and comparison. When you whisper, "I am enough now," something inside you softens. The need to compete, to please, to prove begins to fade. You stop negotiating with your own soul for permission to exist fully. You begin to inhabit your own space with quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't shout but radiates. The energy behind these words is acceptance, not resignation, not passivity, but the kind of acceptance that liberates you from the illusion of lack. When you truly believe you are enough, the world reflects that belief back to you. People respond differently. Situations unfold more gently. It's not that life becomes easier, but your energy stops resisting it. These words shift your focus from seeking to being. You realize that what attracts others most is not your perfection, but your presence. There's a deep calm that surrounds someone who knows they are enough. They walk differently. They speak with clarity, not out of the need to be right, but from the peace of being real. This quiet confidence becomes magnetic. People can feel it in your silence, in your smile, in the way you hold your ground without pushing or shrinking. You stop performing for the world and start aligning with it, saying, "I am enough now," also breaks the habit of postponing your happiness. Most people live as though their worth is waiting at the end of a goal. I'll be enough when I lose weight, when I get the job, when someone loves me. But the truth is, the more you chase that point of completion, the further it runs. You spend your life running after the horizon, never realizing that the sun was already shining within you. The moment you say, "I am enough now," you bring your power back to the present. You stop waiting to live. You stop searching for a reason to feel valuable. You start embodying it, and that embodiment changes everything. These words also dissolve the fear of rejection. When you already feel whole, someone else's disinterest cannot shake you. You don't need their approval to validate your existence. You can appreciate their energy, their beauty, their presence, but you no longer depend on it. That independence makes you powerful. People sense it instantly. They see someone who doesn't cling, someone who gives freely because they are not afraid of losing. That freedom, that inner stability, is deeply attractive because it's so rare. The beauty of "I am enough now" is that it doesn't inflate the ego, it balances it. It reminds you that you don't have to be more or less than anyone. You simply are whole, unique, and complete in this moment. And when you operate from that wholeness, you connect with others on a soul level, rather than from insecurity. You become someone who inspires others to remember their own worth too. Each time you say those words, let them sink deeper, not just as a thought, but as a feeling. Let them echo through your body until your heartbeat matches their rhythm. I am enough now. Say them when you wake up, when you doubt yourself, when you feel unseen. Because these 4 words are not about attracting others first. They're about returning home to yourself. And once you do, the world begins to move differently around you, drawn not to your need, but to your peace. Confidence is not performance, it is presence. The world has taught us that confidence looks loud. A firm handshake, a raised voice, a strong posture, a flawless smile. But real confidence has nothing to prove. It doesn't need an audience. It doesn't rely on applause. It exists quietly, like the steady pulse of the earth beneath your feet. True confidence is not about appearing powerful. It is about feeling at home within yourself. When you are deeply rooted in who you are, you no longer perform. You simply are, and that presence speaks louder than any display ever could. Most people confuse confidence with control. They think being confident means being unshakable, never doubting, always certain. But that kind of confidence is brittle. It shatters the moment life doesn't follow your plan. Real confidence is softer and far stronger. It allows space for vulnerability, uncertainty, and even failure. It says, I don't have to know everything to trust myself. That's where attraction truly begins, because people are drawn to those who are comfortable being human. There's a natural grace in someone who can be open without fear, strong without arrogance, and calm without indifference. Presence is what people feel before they even understand why. It's the energy that fills a room when someone walks in who isn't seeking attention but commands it effortlessly. This kind of confidence doesn't come from effort. It comes from alignment. You've stopped trying to be someone else. You've stopped chasing ideals or competing for worth. Your presence becomes clear, like still water that reflects everything around it, yet remains undisturbed. When people encounter that stillness, they feel safe. They sense something solid in you, a quiet strength that tells them, here is someone who knows who they are. When you perform confidence, it always leaks insecurity. You might talk too much, laugh too loudly, or hide behind perfection. But when you are confident, you no longer need to fill silence or defend your worth. You can listen deeply. You can allow pauses. You can speak simply, and your words will carry weight because they come from a place of truth. That is what real attraction feels like. Not the thrill of someone trying to impress you, but the peace of someone who doesn't need to. People gravitate to that peace like a compass finding north. Confidence, rooted in presence, is not built overnight. It grows each time you choose authenticity over performance, silence over noise, understanding over reaction. It deepens when you realize that your flaws don't make you unworthy. They make you real. The more you accept yourself as a whole being, light and shadow together, the less you need to hide. And when you stop hiding, your energy becomes transparent, inviting others to trust you. You no longer manipulate to be liked. You simply exist as yourself, and that truth is magnetic. To be present is to be free. You are no longer haunted by who you were yesterday, or anxious about who you must become tomorrow. You rest in the simplicity of being here, now. That grounded energy radiates outward, not because you're trying to project confidence, but because you're no longer resisting yourself. You stop fighting your reflection and start embracing it. In that state, your body relaxes, your mind quiets, and your spirit shines through effortlessly. When others meet you in that vibration, they feel something familiar, a peace they've been searching for within themselves. You become a mirror, not by trying to be perfect, but by being real. You don't have to dominate the room to be noticed. Your presence alone is enough. It's the unspoken assurance that says, I am here, and I am whole. That is the kind of confidence that doesn't fade, doesn't depend on validation, and doesn't need to chase. It simply exists. And that existence, unguarded and unwavering, becomes the quiet force that draws everything meant for you closer, without you ever having to reach for it. Stop chasing and start allowing. A simple shift that changes everything. The more you chase, the more the world runs from you, because chasing carries the energy of lack. It says, I don't have it yet, so I must pursue it. And the universe, sensitive as it is, mirrors that vibration right back to you. Every desperate attempt to grasp what you want pushes it further away, because desperation is resistance dressed as effort. Attraction doesn't bloom in that space, it wilts. To attract, you must become the kind of energy that allows, not the kind that demands. Allowing is not about being passive or careless. It's not sitting idly and expecting the world to hand you everything. Allowing means trusting the natural rhythm of life, aligning your energy with what you desire rather than fighting against its timing. When you truly allow, you step into harmony with the flow of existence. You stop trying to force doors open and realize that the ones meant for you will never stay closed. You begin to move differently, not with urgency, but with quiet confidence, knowing that what resonates with your soul is already finding its way to you. When you chase people, their attention, or their approval, you place yourself in the role of the seeker instead of the magnet. You send a message that you are incomplete, that your fulfillment depends on something outside of you. But when you stop chasing and turn inward, something powerful awakens. You begin to draw things in effortlessly because your energy no longer says, I need. It says, I am. People feel the difference. They are drawn to the one who doesn't demand their presence, but welcomes it. They feel safer around someone who isn't trying to control the outcome, because that kind of energy gives space. Space for connection, space for authenticity, space for truth. Allowing requires trust. Trust that what's meant for you will not miss you, and what leaves you was never yours to hold. It takes courage to loosen your grip, especially in a world that glorifies control. But freedom only comes when you stop clinging, when you allow life to unfold naturally. You stop chasing temporary validation and start attracting lasting alignment. You stop asking, how can I make them stay? And start realizing, if they're meant to stay, they will. That understanding turns anxiety into peace and effort into flow. Think of the moments when you've tried too hard, the relationships you forced, the opportunities you begged for, the situations you manipulated to work in your favor. Even if they worked for a time, they never felt right, did they? There was always tension beneath the surface, because anything gained through chasing carries the fear of loss. But what comes through allowing carries ease. You don't have to hold onto it tightly, because it fits naturally. It feels like breathing, effortless, calm, and real. Allowing is the energy of surrender, but not the kind that gives up, the kind that trusts. It is surrendering to the understanding that life has a rhythm far wiser than your plans. When you chase, you're telling the universe you don't trust that rhythm. When you allow, you're dancing with it. You begin to see that everything comes when you're ready for it, not when you're desperate for it. That readiness is born from stillness, from knowing your worth regardless of who stays or leaves. In this stillness, attraction becomes natural. You don't have to script your words or calculate your actions. You simply exist in alignment with your truth, and those meant for you will feel it. They'll sense the peace in your energy and be drawn to it, not because you tried to make them, but because your stillness gave them permission to be still too. The right souls are never captured. They are met. And when they meet the version of you that no longer chases, but allows, they stay. Not because you hold them there, but because it feels like home. Wholeness is the ultimate magnet. It is the quiet realization that you are not a fragment searching for completion, but a complete being learning to remember itself. Most people live as if they are broken pieces, trying to find other pieces to feel whole again. Through relationships, achievements, admiration, or approval. But that kind of wholeness is fragile because it depends on conditions that can vanish at any moment. Real wholeness is not something you achieve. It is something you uncover. It has always been there, beneath the noise of comparison, beneath the longing to be seen, beneath the fear of not being enough. When you discover that you are already whole, everything in your world begins to shift, and the people around you feel it too. A whole person moves differently. They are not looking for completion in another. They are looking for connection. They are not waiting to be saved. They are sharing their peace. You can feel it in their presence. There is no tension, no hunger for validation. They can give love freely because they are not afraid of losing themselves in the process. Their energy says, I am already full, and that fullness becomes irresistible. People are naturally drawn to those who do not need them to feel worthy. They sense the strength and serenity that comes from someone who has made peace with who they are. Wholeness makes you magnetic because it vibrates at the frequency of truth. Everything in nature gravitates toward balance. Rivers flow to the sea. Planets orbit the sun. And energy seeks equilibrium. When you are in balance with yourself, you become like a center of gravity for those who are still seeking their own. Not because you fill their emptiness, but because your presence reminds them that they can be full too. Attraction born from wholeness is not about possession, it's about resonance. It's two complete beings meeting in recognition, not two wounded souls clinging in fear. When you live from a sense of lack, you attract experiences that mirror that lack. You meet people who need saving or drain your energy because they resonate with your own sense of incompleteness. But when you embody wholeness, you begin to draw people who respect, uplift, and understand you. The external world becomes a reflection of your internal state. This is why the most powerful act of attraction is healing yourself. You can only call in what you are ready to hold. And readiness comes from inner harmony, not outer pursuit. Wholeness also changes the way you love. It turns love from a bargain into a gift. You no longer say, "Love me so I can feel whole." Instead, you say, "I love you because I already am." That kind of love is free from attachment and fear. It doesn't try to control or possess. It allows. It doesn't shrink in the face of rejection, because it understands that love, given from fullness, is never wasted. Every act of genuine love expands you further, because giving does not deplete you when your source is infinite. This is the essence of being magnetic, to stand in your completeness so firmly that others can feel it without words. It's not about being perfect. Perfection is rigid, lifeless. Wholeness is alive. It includes your light and your shadow, your strengths and your flaws. It embraces every version of you, the one who has healed and the one still learning how. When you accept yourself fully, you stop fragmenting your own energy. You become integrated, and that integration radiates peace. People sense when they are in the presence of someone who is whole. There's a grounded calm in their energy, a natural warmth that requires no effort. They do not need to chase attention or force affection, because their being itself is enough. Wholeness does not shout, it hums. It is subtle, steady, and endlessly magnetic. And when you live from that place, you stop searching for what's missing, because you finally understand nothing was ever missing. You were whole from the beginning. Everything else you attract is simply drawn to that truth.